After entering the WNBA with sky-high expectations and surrounded with non-stop media buzz, Caitlyn Clark somehow managed to outperform every standard set for her and reach heights that no player touched so soon. She has completely rewritten the rookie record book, turned a chronically losing franchise into a playoff team, and made female basketball trendy among people of all generations, all within the span of a couple of months. It's hard to find a comparable example in any sport of a young player having such an outsized impact, and many observers are quickly realizing they are witnessing greatness in action. That includes numerous basketball personalities, sports journalists, social media influencers, or internet trolls that originally didn't buy into Caitlyn's magic. There are few bigger names in basketball than Shaquille O'Neal. The Big Diesel has kept a high profile in the media after retirement as an integral part of the popular Inside the NBA show. He is a born entertainer, and he is never shy when sharing his opinions about various players. By his own admission, Shaq became hooked on the women's game primarily because of Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark, and he followed their college battles very closely. Of course, Shaq went to Louisiana State University just like Reese, so it was only logical for him to support a fellow LSU star in this budding rivalry. Ever since the two young stars met in the NCAA Finals in 2023, Shaq has been very vocal about Angel being a special talent, but recently even he is changing his tune. Famously, he declared Reese to be the best basketball player ever to come out of LSU, above himself and Pistol Pete Maravich. That's high praise indeed, especially coming from a guy with 4 NBA championship rings and an MVP award. Even Angel was surprised a little bit by his kind words.
Yeah, Shaq told me that I was the best player to come out of LSU. It puts a lot of pressure on me, and I feel like I haven't done anything.
Shaq told me that I was the best player to come out of LSU, and it puts a lot of pressure on me, and I feel I haven't done anything. Well, she did win an NCAA championship, which is something neither Shaq nor Maravich managed to do while at LSU. She was richly rewarded for this feat. Thanks to the new NIL rules, she was allowed to sign a big shoe contract before her final season in college. Unlike many top athletes, Reese didn't opt for Nike or Adidas, and instead followed in the footsteps of the gentle giant who donned the LSU jersey before her. She signed with Reebok, a brand that is currently attempting to get back to its glory days, and has none other but Shaq as its president of basketball operations. This deal garnered attention for numerous reasons and established a very public relationship between O'Neal and Reese that has continued ever since. Shaq also became something of an unofficial advisor to Angel Reese, imparting his wisdom about basketball, professionalism, and other topics that matter to a young athlete. He never tried to deny his connection with Reese, whom he held in high esteem long before she turned pro. Here is how he explained what he does to help the fellow LSU alumni.
So I was just, telling her how to handle adversity, how to handle, controversy. And, with a person like her, you don't really want to come and say, do this and do that. I was just coming and, giving her encouraging words, just telling her, to hang in there.
It's not clear how close their relationship is or how often was Shaq in contact with Angel since she entered WNBA, but he doesn't hide that he is firmly on her side. To be fair, he always stayed professional in his comments and frequently mentioned how much he appreciates the growth of women's basketball in general. Still, he publicly declared for Reese before this WNBA season even started and could be counted among her staunchest supporters, with a vested financial interest in her success. Shaq could often be seen at Chicago Sky games, rooting for his understudy and taking notice how much the women's game has advanced. Considering all of the above, it's a bit surprising to hear his latest remarks where he finally admits that Caitlyn is the one to watch, not Angel. Like always, Shaq's words sound completely sincere, and he simply sounds resigned to the fact that his favorite can't keep up with all of Caitlyn's accomplishments. The following quote came after the latest showdown between Reese and Clark resulted in a blowout victory for the Fever, which may have sealed the Rookie of the Year race and changed Shaq's mind for good. "She does everything right. I never spoke about her because Angel is my girl, but I can truthfully say, Caitlyn Clark is for real. I'm watching her play and I'm trying to be upset, but she makes the right pass, makes the right play. Girls try to beat her up and she doesn't really complain. She is a great one, even early on. She's the real deal. Much respect to her and her family and the way she grew up and the way she plays." After spending nearly 2 decades in the NBA and sharing the court with the likes of Penny, Kobe, D. Wade, and James, Shaq certainly knows what it means to play the right way. Despite his long-standing allegiance to LSU star and Reebok signee, he can't help but recognize that no woman is doing more amazing things at the moment than Caitlyn Clark. The significance of this admission may be greater than it seems at first, and could signal a watershed moment in how the media treats Clark. If Shaq can't continue to promote Reese over Clark despite having a commercial relationship with her, it's questionable whether anyone else can. There was never any doubt whether Caitlyn Clark would bring additional attention to the WNBA. She made NCAA women's basketball the most popular sport in America, and it was widely expected that her army of fans would follow her transition to the pros. The only real question was, how well would Caitlyn adapt to her new circumstances, and how long would it take for the mainstream media to acknowledge her supremacy? In other words, the Caitlyn Clark effect was coming for the league, but nobody knew it would stay equally impactful. As it turned out, not only did the effect transfer to the pro league, but it became amplified in the process. The Caitlyn Clark effect is real, and it can be measured in viewers and dollars. All of the top 12 most viewed WNBA games in 2024 involved the Indiana Fever, and they attracted between 1.2 and 2.3 million viewers on all networks combined. For comparison, an average NBA game last season was seen by 1.56 million TV viewers. That's not counting the WNBA All-Star Game, which attracted as many as 3.4 million viewers, the most for any WNBA game since the inaugural season in 1997. Presence of Clark also affects attendance at games quite dramatically, as the Fever now top the league with nearly 17,000 fans in the arena per night, that after filling barely over 4,000 seats per game last year. All of that translates into boatloads of cash for the team and the entire league, and the pie will only grow as Caitlyn Clark's stardom solidifies and she starts collecting major awards. It's a safe guess that the business aspect isn't lost on Shaquille O'Neal. In addition to being one of the best centers to play the game and one of the most beloved TV personalities in America, he is also a shrewd businessman. He has a range of investments that continuously generate income, and he is always on the hunt for the next deal of the century. Furthermore, Shaq understands the value of partnerships with established stars, and the following clip illustrates that.
I wanted to start a business. The way I learned business was a gentleman gave me a book, The Dummy's Guide to Starting Your Own Business. When I was reading it, wasn't familiar with anything, but it was a chapter that really piqued my interest. Joint ventureships.
In general, this is not a good time to be a Caitlyn hater. She is playing at near MVP level and has just dragged a previously moribund franchise into the playoffs and to the top of the moneymakers list. She is standing alone at the top of her rookie class and is the unquestioned leader of her team, which is increasingly finding its groove around Caitlyn. This is why many of the commentators who doubted that her skills would work in the pros or preferred Angel Reese to her are now quiet, popping up occasionally only to backtrack their previous comments. Speaking out against Caitlyn Clark means denying the facts and risking furious backlash on the internet. And predictably, many of those who just wanted cheap clicks at Caitlyn's expense are now avoiding this topic altogether. In fact, we can slowly but surely see the big media arrive at a consensus that Caitlyn Clark has lived up to the hype and probably even surpassed it. With the exception of a few stubborn haters, pretty much everyone has come to terms with the fact there is a new sheriff in town, one that looks different than our stereotype of a WNBA player. After mesmerizing college audiences for years, Caitlyn has gone up for another level and now has the undivided attention of the entire nation. Women's basketball used to be an afterthought when it came to television programming, but now it's becoming primetime material, so much so that other sports events need to worry about scheduling conflicts. There is a recent example showing how much things have changed. In early September, when the first ever NFL game played in Brazil coincided with an Indiana Fever game, some very well-regarded sports personalities thought that Caitlyn and her girls were the must-see content. Dave Portnoy is the founder of the well-known sports banter website Barstool Sports, and he voiced his displeasure with those who decided to watch Packers versus Eagles instead of Caitlyn Clark. Honestly, only a fool would watch NFL over the Indiana Fever and Caitlyn Clark right now. It's poetry in motion, it's art, it's beauty. Makes me want to cry tears of joy watching them right now. This is probably one of the most heartfelt quotes about Caitlyn Clark by anyone, and Portnoy is certainly a big name in the US sports media. He also put his money where his mouth is and placed a $100,000 bet on the Fever to win the 2024 WNBA championship, despite not appearing in the playoffs for years. For a person of that stature to give this kind of support to Clark is incredible, and could lead to her fame and her game reaching even more people. Consider for a moment that 51% of all Americans identify as NFL fans, and that in 2022, 88 out of the top 100 most watched televised events were NFL games. If only a small portion of these sports fans crossed over, the potential for Caitlyn growing her fan base is simply immense. That brings us to an interesting question. Has Caitlyn finally won the respect of the mainstream media? It may be too early to tell, since all the doubters could resurface instantly if she hits a rough stretch and gets eliminated early in the playoffs. For now, it appears that the biggest voices in the ether are throwing their weight behind Caitlyn and declaring her to be the future of the WNBA. This could be the final step in Caitlyn's ascent to the very top of the sports pyramid of power, and a sign that from now on, the league will be associated with her more than with veterans like Brittany Griner, Aja Wilson, or Sabrina Ionescu. WNBA badly needed a personification that would appeal to the masses, and the 22-year-old rookie seems to have passed the audition for the role. There are few journalists who hold greater sway over public opinion than Stephen A. Smith. He is someone who knows basketball inside out and has more sources and connections on his own than some media companies. While he loves to invite controversy and speak his mind loudly, he was very calm and collected when he was listing all the reasons why Caitlyn Clark is a unique player that we should all collectively appreciate.
She's leading the league in assists. Since July 10th, she's the second leading scorer in the NBA behind Aja Wilson, averaging 23.8 points per game.
She is the first rookie in WNBA history to record multiple triple-doubles in a season, and the Indiana Fever are destined to go to the playoffs. They are winning basketball games. She is special. She is clearly the Rookie of the Year. She is a top 3 or 4 MVP candidates for the league. It's something to behold, and she deserves a lot of credit, and a lot of people should owe her a debt of gratitude associated with WNBA, because the profile she brought to the sport overall is immeasurable. Everything that Stephen A. mentioned in this quote is a cold fact. There can be no argument about what Caitlyn Clark is doing on the court, especially over the past 2 months. But he goes a step further and reminds everyone what Clark has done for the WNBA in the business column, and how many people are getting fatter checks because of her. She turns everything she touches into gold, and she doesn't go around talking about her brand or her business interests all the time. That's why it's the responsibility of the talking heads in the media to sing her praises and express gratitude for the Caitlyn Clark effect. Many of them have been shirking this responsibility and seeking to hold her down instead. Charles Barkley is another guy who doesn't mince his words. The legendary NBA power forward has partnered with Shaq on the Inside the NBA show on TNT, and he is widely regarded as one of the better basketball commentators on American television. Chuck is sick and tired of the treatment that Caitlyn Clark has received all year and is reminding the media world that it's time to stop disrespecting her. People believe what we say on television. Just because someone don't like you or your personality, they can't get on TV and slander you. It's just total bullshit. This girl is incredible. The number of attention, eyeballs she's brought to college and the pros. This is a rare example of a basketball pundit who realizes that all that talk can actually hurt someone's public standing and even affect their earning. Barkley may not be as eloquent with his words as Smith, but their messages are nearly the same. Stop the madness and just give Caitlyn her flowers. He also didn't hesitate to characterize the negative sentiment as motivated by personal animosity. And since Barkley is an insider, he probably knows what he is talking about. By clearly stating his opinion about Clark and her relevance for the sport of basketball and calling out his colleagues who are refusing to do the same, he is daring anyone to prove him wrong. That wasn't easy while he was playing, and it might be even more challenging now that he is one of the highest-paid studio analysts. As Caitlyn Clark continues to turn former critics into supporters and to gain respect from NBA legends such as O'Neal and Barkley, the money streams related to her are rapidly enlarging. WNBA has been revitalized by her arrival, and it is still adjusting to its newfound popularity and increased reach. Formerly seen as the poor little sister of the NBA, the league is now outperforming its parent on its proprietary NBA TV platform. The most watched game on this network in the past 12 months was the September 1st match between the Fever and the Wings, followed closely by a Warriors-Cavs game from last November. In other words, more people tuned in to watch Caitlyn Clark than Steph Curry. Ideally, WNBA should parlay this unexpected payday into more robust infrastructure that would allow for further improvement of play and potentially addition of a few more franchises. Fans are obviously ready for more women's basketball, but it remains to be seen how the league will respond to the spiking demand. There could be massive changes coming regarding the salary structure, the number of nationally televised games, travel schedules, even the number of teams in the league. All of that is driven primarily by Caitlyn Clark's genius, but the benefits will be felt by numerous players, both those playing now and those who are yet to be drafted. If the WNBA wants to rip a page from the NBA playbook and build up its business model to a similar extent, a superstar that has a magnetic personality to match with otherworldly basketball skills is a must. Caitlyn Clark is perfect for that role, and her popularity is already making a huge difference. The next step is to go global and develop an international following, and Clark is doing fine in this regard too. There are already foreign fans at Fever games who traveled thousands of miles just to see her. For example, a woman from Australia who proudly held out a sign for the cameras to commemorate her journey. This is not the last time we are going to see signs of this nature. And as Caitlyn's legend makes its way abroad, additional exposure for the entire league is sure to follow. Securing lucrative TV rights deals from rich international markets would leave WNBA awash in new money and allow it to finally compete with the top European leagues when it comes to salaries. Since nobody is immune to the Caitlyn Clark effect, this is likely to happen sooner rather than later. With deeper pockets, WNBA will be better positioned to continue improving its on-court product, both by attracting and retaining more talented players and by developing the talent it already has more quickly. If things go the right way, WNBA could soon become a valuable asset to the NBA, which owns 50% of the women's league. While it's hard to imagine women's basketball quite catching up with the men's game in terms of global revenues soon, the gap between them is suddenly not looking like a chasm. Shaquille O'Neal and Dave Portnoy may be late to the Caitlyn Clark party, but they are here to stay. Their recent comments prove that people who saw this incredible season from Caitlyn coming were wiser than the rest of the basketball community. Caitlyn's hardcore fans believed back in June that she is capable of competing with anyone in the WNBA, but they were called delusional and biased. Now that everyone is rushing to congratulate Caitlyn, her most loyal fans are getting vindicated and their passion is being rewarded. From the perspective of an early supporter, this phase where the mainstream media is getting behind Clark and lauding her accomplishments must feel like a victory, even if the fans may not have forgotten all the pushback they had to endure alongside Caitlyn. So, if you are one of the people who 6 months ago believed that Caitlyn Clark is the best prospect ever to put on the WNBA jersey, you are looking pretty smart right now. And this is just the beginning. Just imagine how things will look if the Fever mount a spirited playoff run. If you trusted Caitlyn when nobody else did, there is no reason to start tempering your expectations now. Recent events have shown that Caitlyn has figured out how to win in the WNBA, and the experience she gets in the postseason will help her prepare for a serious championship hunt. Perhaps Dave Portnoy's bet for 2024 is too risky, but next year could be a different story. Chances are that Caitlyn Clark won't have to wait too long to lift the only trophy that really counts, and her true fans will have the ultimate satisfaction of seeing their hero at the top of the world. That's a scene worth waiting for.